Did you know there are reservation brokers where people will help you buy reservations for restaurants that are hard to get into? It's a whole industry. And did you know an average restaurant reservation for Carbone in New York goes for $350? Why are people paying $350 consistently for a reservation at Carbone? Is it the food? Is it the vibe? Is it the scene? Well, in this video, I'm gonna tell you how Carbone created a buzz that made them into a restaurant where people are willing to pay $350 just to get into the door. That's not including food. I'm also gonna lay out the exact blueprint on how they did it. First, you have to understand that the restaurant industry is the most difficult industry to be in. Margins are extremely tight, competition is fiercely crazy, and I always say the old way of running a restaurant is dead. You'll never reach your full potential if you don't incorporate innovation in the way you do things as an owner. Actually, not just the way you do things, but you need to incorporate innovation in the way you do everything. And Carbone is the biggest case study for that, and I'm gonna break it down for you. But to understand how they got here, you first have to understand where they started. In 2009, childhood friends Mario Carbone and Rich Torrisi opened a tiny Italian spot called Torrisi Italian Specialties on Mulberry Street. It was a humble deli by day and a daring $50 tasting menu, trattoria, by night. And the two CIA-trained cooks had cut their teeth under culinary giants like Daniel Boulud, but now they crave something on their own. And their little 18-seat Torrisi restaurant unexpectedly became a hit, proof that Italian-American food done with finesse could wow jaded New Yorkers still. And not far behind was Jeff Zelaznik, a former food media entrepreneur who dined at Torrisi and fell in love with the food and wouldn't stop talking with the chefs about the idea of opening up something bigger. One night, Mario asked Jeff to stick around after dinner. They sat down for 6 hours at the Jane Hotel bar, excitedly sketching out a shared dream, a restaurant that resurrects mid-century New York, Italian fine dining for the modern era. That dream was Carbone. Zelaznik recalled at the first brainstorming session, they imagined a place that captured the nostalgic magic of their grandparents' neighborhood Italian restaurants, yet felt fresh and exciting with a new generation. And soon after, the trio teamed up as equal partners under the name Major Food Group. Two ambitious chefs, one business mastermind ready to build an empire completely built on red sauce. And the opportunity arrived in a storied but struggling location. The 90-year-old Rocco's restaurant on Thompson Street had closed its doors, and the landlord was seeking a new tenant. The space was perfect, a preserved piece of Greenwich Village history with black and white tiled floors and vintage charm. Carbone opened here in March of 2013 with Mario Carbone's own name on the neon marquee that now hung over Rocco's old sign as a tribute. They set out to channel mid-20th century Italian-American glamour. Tuxedo-clad captains waited on guests, Frank Sinatra and golden oldies played through the speakers. And the menu featured greatest hits like linguine vongole, chicken scarpariello, and lobster fra diavolo, each refined with obsession. The aim was clear. Carbone would honor the past while elevating it, a time machine with a Michelin star level kitchen. With that mission, Mario, Rich, and Jeff flung open Carbone's heavy doors, not realizing they were launching what would become a dining phenomenon. Carbone exploded onto the scene, achieving in months what most restaurants dream of achieving in a lifetime. In June of 2013, New York Times critic Pete Wells bestowed a glowing 3-star review praising Carbone and Torrisi's for the highbrow interpretation of an old-school Italian as akin to Quentin Tarantino reviving a B-roll genre. It's a fancy red sauce joint as directed by Tarantino, bringing back the punch-in-the-guts thrills of a genre everybody else sees as uncultured. Wells wrote. That's an amazing review. That same year, Carbone earned a coveted Michelin star, cementing its status as both a foodie temple and a cultural cornerstone. Suddenly, an extravagant plate of spicy rigatoni vodka or a perfectly crispy veal parm was a must-have experience for gourmands and gossip columns alike. And celebrity buzz ensued almost immediately. LeBron James became a regular, once even hashing out the concept for his TV show, The Shop, over a late-night feast at Carbone's. Rapper Drake name-dropped Carbone in a song, giving the restaurant a shout-out in his 2017 track, Do Not Disturb. And where A-listers went, influencers and socialites followed. The dining room's Kardashian-esque allure only grew. Instagram post of Carbone's famous spicy rigatoni vodka, tubes of pasta blanketed in their neon orange chili-laced sauce became status symbols on the feed. The Instagram gossip account Du Moi began routinely dishing sightings of stars at Carbone, fueling the frenzy. If you manage to score a table, you never know who you might sit next to. Rihanna, Bezos, someone on an NBA team, all the hype made Carbone's reservations the most coveted in America. Getting a primetime table required either serious advanced planning or serious connections. The restaurant famously never had to beg for customers. In fact, it was quite the opposite. On reservation platforms, Carbone would book out within seconds of new dates being released. A secondary resale market sprung up. Cunning brokers grabbed prime reservations and flipped them to desperate diners willing to pay hundreds of dollars for a chance to dine in. By 2024, Carbone ranked as the #6 most in-demand reservation in New York City on one black market site, with the 4 top going for $350. As one observer joked, Carbone is a new Rayo's now. It's really hard to get a table unless you know someone. This exclusivity only stoked the flames. The harder Carbone was to get into, the more people seemed to want it. Yet Carbone's fame wasn't built on one mere scene alone. It was engineered with intent. Major food group cultivated an aura of theatrical exclusivity. Dress codes reminded guests to dress for the occasion and warned that those not sufficiently well presented may be refused entry. Arriving diners were often greeted by a suited maitre d' who behaved less like a host and more like a club doorman, politely, firm, and reinforcing that feeling that you'd made it just by stepping inside. Inside the dining rooms, A-list treatment awaited all. Not just the actual A-listers, tables might be sprinkled with celebrity regulars, but yes, every guest received a dose of Carbone's signature showmanship and over-the-top hospitality that had critics and bloggers raving. The restaurant became so famous that in 2020, even a global pandemic couldn't dim its allure. When Carbone, New York started offering takeout during the COVID-19 lockdown, massive crowds of delivery drivers and hopeful locals swarmed the sidewalks outside, eager for a taste of the luxury comfort food. It got so chaotic that Carbone had actually ceased takeout orders altogether by April of 2021. By then, Carbone wasn't just a restaurant, it was an institution, iconic brand that stood for A-list Italian delicacies. Major Food Group had successfully created what one writer called a hyper-real New York sensibility. Outrageously fun, brazenly expensive, and impossible to get into. And on top of that, the red sauce juggernaut was just getting started. Carbone's experience feels spontaneous and larger than life. But behind that is a carefully choreographed ballet. One that Major Food Group has systematized to replicate in each and every location. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I always forget to mention this. I'm talking about training, I'm talking about leadership, and I'm talking about systems. I'm talking about building out your operations so you can trust your staff to give hospitality at a high level so they can control that guest retention lever, right? Upsell lever, 5-star review lever, right? And all this stuff ultimately creates a culture of excellence and a culture of hospitality, which lowers employee turnover rates. So all these ways of making your business much more successful and also giving your clients what they want, fulfilling your vision and your dream. How do we do it, right? We've helped over 350 restaurants worldwide. It does get expensive, me flying out there doing all these things, but for the first time ever, I'm gonna have you come down to me where we can meet up on a 2-day intensive and show you how to build all these things out, leadership, training, and systems. And I'm not doing it alone. I have the master himself, Will Guidara, the author of Unreasonable Hospitality, and together, we're gonna show you how to build these things. You can't miss the event. This will change everything in your business forever, and all it takes is 2 days. So bring yourself, bring your leadership team, walk away with the playbook that we're gonna give you and the energy, get your staff bought in. Tickets are extremely limited. You can find the link in the description. I click the link, let's get going. Mario Carbone and Rich Torrisi learned from the masters of old school New York hospitality. During development, the trio spent weeks on an Italian restaurant safari, eating all over the city, from Rao's in East Harlem to Don Pepe in Queens, studying the timeless hospitality tricks they lovingly call moves. So, what's a move? Picture a veteran waiter at Molino swooping in with freebie plates of fried zucchini, salami, and Parmigiano before you've ever even looked at the menu. That's a classic. Another move at Rayo's, their legendary no menu joint, the server sits down at your table, throws an arm over the chair and says, okay, let's talk about what's for dinner. Carbone's team took notes of all of it, and their mission was to bottle that lightning up, to build a restaurant that hits every nostalgic note and yet still feels natural. Thus, from day one, Carbone's service playbook was designed for consistency and impact. They don't just have waiters, they have captains. As an MFG social media post proudly stated, every captain wears a bespoke 1950s style burgundy tuxedo to embody that golden age of glamour. These uniforms are the same whether you're at Carbone, New York, or at Carbone in Hong Kong, instantly signaling the brand. But the true uniform is the behavior. Captains are trained to deliver tableside theatrics with military precision. One signature move in this Caesar salad a la Z, prepared from scratch right beside the table. Whole romaine lettuce leaves tossed with eggy dressing, theatrically whisked and plated in front of you. Another is a spicy rigatoni presentation. A captain might cheekily urge, "Manja, you're gonna want to soak up all that sauce," as he ladles out the neon orange vodka sauce. Carbone captains even master the art of menu prelude. They'll often lean in and orate the daily specials or off-menu items in a lyrical, rapid-fire style that makes you feel like you're a mafia don being let in on a little secret. And this too is by design. It brings personalized flair to what could be a rote recitation. All these moves have been codified into Carbone's training regimen. A new hire doesn't just learn the menu, they essentially rehearse a role in a nightly show. On the culinary side, Systematization is just as rigorous. As the Carbone brand expanded, they appointed a corporate chef, Jonah Resnick, for example, to ensure that each Carbone kitchen from New York to Vegas sticks to the same high standards. Recipes for the famous dishes closely guarded and meticulously documented. The goal is that the meatball at Carbone Dallas is the same as a meatball in New York. And those meatballs, by the way, are an intentional Easter egg in the system. They are not listed on the menu at all. Of course, they could be, but they aren't. The founders tease in their new coffee table book. We're promoting a conversation, and it creates this exchange. In other words, Carbone has institutionalized a bit of playfulness. They want you to ask the waiter about the meatballs or any other off-menu items. Major Food Group also invested in operational muscle to make this repeatable. The company built an internal infrastructure so that when you open in a new city, they can employ an experienced opening team, often veterans of the original restaurants, to train the local staff. For example, when Carbone Hong Kong opened in 2014, Mario Carbone sent his cousin, Louis, a New Yorker with a thick accent, to be front of the house, setting the impression, ensuring guests 8,000 miles away got the same charismatic hospitality. In Las Vegas, MFG partnered with Aria Resort, but they brought their own executive chef and captains from New York to launch the kitchen and the hospitality experience. These leaders instill Carbone's culture on site, from the correct size of the garlic bread, yes, complimentary garlic bread is a must at every Carbone, to the exact cadence of firing courses in the kitchen. The design and the decor all systematized through long-term collaborators like designers Ken Folk, who worked on Carbone's Vegas and Dubai outposts, to replicate the brand's recognizable look: red velvet booths, tile floors, vintage chandeliers, and mirrored walls. This screamed mid-century glamour. Every Carbone is instantly Instagrammable and familiar, even while each has slightly different local twists. By 2024, Major Food Group has grown into a hospitality powerhouse with over 50 venues, and sources estimated an annual revenue north of $500 million. Carbone, once just a dream discussed over drinks between three friends, became a template that has since taken over Las Vegas, Hong Kong, Miami, Dallas, and New York by storm. The brand even extended into grocery aisles. In 2021, the team launched Carbone Fine Food Sauces. They bottled that spicy vodka sauce for more sales. Mario Carbone joked that the restaurant only serves a finite number of people every single night, but through customer packaged goods, we can actually touch an immense amount of people we never would have been able to. The move into a $10 supermarket pasta sauce might seem far from the white tablecloth drama that Carbone dining provides, but it's part of the same system, delivered with quality at scale without compromise. As Chef Carbone noted, if you put the same care and thought into the product on the shelf as we do in the restaurant, that creates the next exciting opportunity. Carbone's success was never an accident. It was engineered. Every free salami bite, every dessert, every perfectly pressed tuxedo is one piece of a larger machine, a machine built to create a memorable experience over and over again. So talking about expanding and the difficulties of expanding, they quickly learned that taking the show on the road comes with both triumphs and trials. Because in 2014, Major Food Group partnered with Hong Kong Black Sheep Restaurant Group to open up Carbone in Hong Kong. Bringing a flamboyant, Sinatra-era New York concept to Hong Kong was a litmus test of Carbone's portability. Would the charade of wise guys and Italian-American nostalgia resonate in Asia? Well, it turns out they didn't have to worry. Carbone Hong Kong opened to great fanfare, wowing expats and locals alike. With the immersive old-school New York vibe, they dispatched key staff to ensure authenticity like we talked about. So what can we learn from Carbone? Why are people willing to pay $350 till this day for a reservation at Carbone? Carbone made it simple. They had a dream, they had a vision. What could we bring into the market that people want? They used innovation to bring it into the market. They used innovation to create something, a demand that was already there that people were just waiting for, right? We want this. We want an old school New York feel, something that transports us, something that immerses us. There's 1,000,000 restaurants in New York. I can find Italian food in New York, no problem. I can find Chinese food. I can find any cuisine I want ad nauseum. That is not the demand. The food is not the demand. The experience is the demand. The consistency is demand. They found a way to immerse people into an experience that they wanted, the experience that they knew very well, and then they did it well. That was the big piece. They did not compromise. They had high levels and high standards. And let me make this very clear. They did not have a lot of money. They didn't have a bunch of investors that said, we're gonna give you a bunch of money to knock this out of the park, because they didn't even know if it would work. Nobody knew it would work. They had no idea the success it would bring them. Now, hindsight, you'd think, oh yeah, I'm sure investors threw money at them. But at the time, people thought they were crazy because they were creating this crazy experience that they're saying, well, there's a bunch of Italian restaurants that are like that. You're gonna try and sell veal parm. Veal parm is everywhere. I can get veal parm anywhere I want. No, we're gonna give veal parm at a very high level consistently. You're never going to get a veal parm that's not moist, that's not crispy, that's not perfect. That's our goal. Every recipe is going to be classic. Every recipe is be done well at a high level. And then you heard it. They systematized everything, including the experience. They went to all their favorite Italian restaurants that were already hits, and they took all of their secrets. What is everything I loved about this? What hospitality pieces I loved? And then they didn't spare a single expense. They invested heavily in their staff. They invested heavily in their experience, and it paid off in dividends because people came back over and over again because they got consistency, they got comfort. I know when I go into Carbone, I'm going to get an amazing theatrical experience and amazing food. Carbone is not cheap. The demand is there. People are willing to spend the money if you give them an amazing elevated experience. The only way you can accomplish that is if you invest into that experience. If you take the time to create the training and the systems and the leadership, if you invest in your people, that is the only way. There's no way around it. If you're trying to cut corners and say, I don't want to spend money on that, you're going to fail. If you're not going to spend the time with your staff to develop them, you're going to fail. The way to become successful in this industry, there's a blueprint that works every single time, and Carbone is just the latest to lay it out, and that is invest in your people, invest in the experience, and make sure that everything is consistent and at a high level. It doesn't matter if you're serving burgers or beers or fine dining Italian food, people want that experience. Every server's trained at a high level. Every leadership team's trained at a high level. Everything is systemized. Every single move is choreographed. Every single recipe is systematized to the T. The mistake level at Carbone is so low, and that's why the success rate is so high. Now, tell me this. Have you visited Carbone? Tell me in the comments, what do you think? What was your impression? Do you want to go visit it? And do you believe that it's worth the money? Thank you for watching the video. And again, if you're interested in developing your training, systems, and leadership, ultimately your operations to give your guests the best experience possible, to get your guest retention skyrocketing, your 5-star reviews skyrocketing, your upsell skyrocketing, to lower your turnover rate and have a culture of excellence, click the link in the description for our live 2-day event. Tickets may be sold out, but if they're not, snag them now.